I'm about to do something illegal in Japan, a country famed for its beautiful landscapes, rich history, and vibrant culture. A history that has led to some of the most unique and strict gambling laws in the world. Join me as I explore what happens when entertainment and gambling blur into a legal loophole where prizes are traded for cold, hard cash. You know, I think if there's anything I love more than scams, it's got to be traveling. And no, I'm not one of those menaces who goes around to places they don't understand just causing trouble for a picture.
Stop it. Get some help.
I just really love learning about and experiencing this wonderful world we live in, which is why I've always wanted to go to Japan. I've always been fascinated by how clean their cities look, how efficient their public transport seems, and how unique their products are. So when I finally had my chance to cash in my credit card points and fly there for free, there was absolutely no way I was gonna miss out on that opportunity. Because to me, there's almost nothing more exciting in life than learning about other cultures and the people who've crafted them. Well, almost nothing. See, I was 18 when I first stepped into a casino, and I'll never forget having to cover my nose with my hand to avoid how much smoke filled the room. And it was at this casino where I first met Old Faithful, a slot machine that played me about as well as Faker plays League of Legends. And I was blessed with the curse of free spins, and I ended up leaving there with a whopping $88.65 in my hand. And I didn't know it at the time, but that moment would have a ripple effect that would drastically change the course of my life. And it was all by design. I grew up in the United States, specifically Michigan, where almost anything goes when it comes to gambling. Michigan, along with 5 other states, has virtually no restrictions on slot machines. Some states like California have stricter rules, only allowing slot machines in tribal casinos. And then there's Utah and Hawaii, who have outright banned all forms of gambling, and I don't know why. Maybe they hate fun, or maybe their legislation kept on losing on their parlays. Japan, though, is a little bit different. See, in 1907, way before my favorite place, Don Quixote, even existed, the Japanese government prohibited most forms of gambling under their penal code, which essentially determines what is and is not a criminal offense. Which means that casinos, blackjack, online betting, slot machines, and various other types of gambling are all strictly banned in Japan. Of course, this isn't too much of a problem, as you can always go to one of those maid cafes and play poker with literal Monopoly money to get a similar rush. Basically, if the goal of the game is to bet money for money, it's probably illegal, but there's a few loopholes such as horse and bicycle racing or local lotteries. See, most of the gambling that is legal is for prizes, which is why as soon as you're old enough to carry 100 yen coins around, you're able to play the hundreds of thousands of gachapon and crane games that are littered about the country. See, but then there's Pachinko, a game that combines the dopamine farm of slot machines with the primal rage of pinball. Pachinko has become a staple of Japanese culture since it first arrived from the US in the early 1920s. With its original and much cooler name, Corinthian Bagatelle? Corinthian Battlegate? I don't. And in order to play the game, you have to first act like every rogue in D&D and buy a bunch of ball bearings to fill the machines with. From there, all you have to do is turn a wheel to determine how much force the balls are gonna be shot out with, aiming to hit all of the bonuses on the board. And the goal here is to leave with more ball bearings than you entered with. And if you're lucky enough to hit a jackpot, that's when your senses are completely overloaded by the noise and the colors of these pseudo slot machines. Unlike slot machines though, Pachinko prizes aren't monetary. At least officially. Usually once you trade in your balls, you're left with an amount of points redeemable for a variety of prizes ranging from chocolate bars to big old plushies to top shelf sake. Kind of like an arcade. Which may seem pretty straightforward, but stay tuned because it's a lot more sketchy, complicated, and potentially illegal than it might sound. But in order to find out more, we first have to head to Japan.
I'm calling a hotel stand.
But wait, what if you're like me and you didn't adequately pack for all of those prizes? What if you actually wanted to make your money back, or better yet, make a profit? Well, you're in luck. See, some resourceful, law-abiding citizens found a legal loophole to get around the strict gambling laws in Japan, as detailed by Tetsuya Yamamoto in his Asian Journal of Criminology, where he states that pachinko parlors circumnavigate gambling laws by exchanging prizes for cash at adjacent establishments, exploiting a significant legal loophole. Which sounds pretty good to me, but before we learn how to circumnavigate around these gambling laws, we should understand why gambling is so strictly regulated around the world in the first place. And in order to do that, we have to go back. No, like way back to the beginning of human civilization around 3000 BCE in ancient Mesopotamia. This is around the time that LeBron James is estimated to be born and six-sided die were first discovered. See, these early dice games based on chance were super magnetic to our tiny little ape brains. A concept that is well highlighted in Mark D. Griffith's The Psychology of the Lottery, where he states that intermittent reinforcement where rewards are given unpredictably is highly effective at maintaining and cultivating addiction. Or in short, when we win a prize, our brains think that's super sick and we want to win another. And for thousands of years, we humans worked at evolving our addiction into even more rewarding forms. So it's really not that surprising to me that over centuries, governing bodies have passed legislation in an attempt to protect the people who are addicted to these games but don't win.
It's a 2K loss.
Or at least protect them from throwing away valuable money that can instead be going to the state, but I digress. Gambling in Japan is thought to date back to the Nara period, when the imperial government was in Nara, a place where deer are considered sacred and have not only learned to bow to ask for food, but as I've learned, bite when they don't get it. And gambling at this time mainly involved games similar to Sugaruko, which if you don't think about it too much is kind of similar to backgammon, which if you really don't think about it is a little bit more similar to Sorry. And since then, culture did what culture does and fermented those basic games into flashy dopamine machines for all ages. Today, this is represented through chance vending machines, gachapon, and of course, Pachinko. Oh, and shout out to abroad in Japan who I first learned about this from. He's definitely an inspiration and someone I've referenced a lot while researching what to do in Japan.
But when you're talking about a market worth $200 billion or 4% of Japan's GDP, well, it's a lot of government tax revenue, isn't it?
And I love his videos on Pachinko, but he wasn't quite willing to go as far as I am, as you'll see later on. But let's start with vending machines. Yes, vending machines. Japan has an amazing variety, ranging from machines that will freshly squeeze orange juice in front of you all the way to meals that you can pick up on the go to luxury wallets and watches. I think the ones that are most interesting though are the ones you actually don't pick what you're gonna win, but instead are rewarded with that sweet dopamine rush when you select a prize ranging from camping supplies to PlayStation 5s. So when I first saw the King's Treasure Box, those feelings I had as an 18-year-old looking at Old Faithful for the first time came flooding back. And I felt determined to win a PlayStation 5. We're at the King's Treasure Box, and I'm gonna win a Switch. These machines let you gamble for Pokemon cards, electronics, a lot of different things. So wish me luck. Okay, none of these are out, so that's a good sign. I'm gonna go middle. Show me something good. That was a heavy thud. That was a heavy, it's not a heavy thud at all. It's a round wireless speaker. Ooh. It's kind of trash.
It's an electronic though.
It's an electronic though, that's true. Fire kit, solo fire kit. Yeah, we can use them when we're camping. So we got a really nice flashlight. It's a fire starter to go with the fire kit that we have, and a beanie.
Yeah, it's a game. Oh, it's a scalp massager.
Scalp massager?
Yeah.
Two things. Okay, another bag.
Orange.
Yeah, an orange bag.
Yeah. Well, we can put our winnings in here.
And then another, it just dispensed twice.
Oh, okay.
It's the same game?
Yeah.
Oh no. We have two of this?
Yeah.
We might not have won big at the King's Treasure Box, but we are heading over to a game store and then a gachapon, Super Potato, to hopefully win back some of the money we lost. I'm so excited to go to Super Potato. The entrance is kind of weird though.
Yeah.
Yo, that's so cool. The reason I was still hopeful is because I still had a lot of different games to play. The next on our list, Gachapon. Gachapon, which are essentially just really fancy toy capsule vending machines, are massive in Japan. And they're usually themed with a collectible catalog displayed on the front. And I saw multiple people spending large amounts of money on single machines just to try to get the character that they want. And to really emphasize how massive this is, there's over 360,000 of these machines in Japan that generate an estimated 200 million USD every year. Like just think about how much more money you could have spent at Don Quixote if you weren't out there wasting it on Gachapon. You could have even ridden their Ferris wheel. This is in a convenience store.
Not a convenience store.
A convenience store, Don Quixote, where you can get everything you'll ever need. Stay in Don Quixote. Stay in Don Quixote. But as Jeffrey L. Davinsky highlights in Youth and Gambling, a clinical research perspective, the appeal of gacha machines lie in their randomness, similar to gambling, which can foster addictive behaviors, especially among youth. And I won't lie, these games are addictive. I mean, I saw people aged 4 to 60 playing these machines when I was there, and I was one of them. That's not too bad. And while Gachapon is nice and fun, the chances of actually getting one of those bigger prizes like a Nintendo Switch or a Louis Vuitton bag are pretty slim. I shamefully spent about $90 on a single gacha machine trying to win PSA 10 Pokemon card, and all I won were these 10-cent stamps. So in search of something a little more rewarding, we decided to try our luck with Japan's incredible, skill-based claw machines. Because unlike the US, where the majority of machines are rigged depending on how much money you put in, sorry if you didn't know that and you've been getting scammed your whole life. Most claw machines in Japan are based around pushing and nudging the prize over to an edge over multiple plays in order to win. So when you do win, there's an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. Do you think I really care that much about this Curious George plushie I won? Not really, but winning it felt like winning the lottery. And little did I know that these games are what would take a majority of my money on this trip, because my girlfriend became gravely addicted to these claw machines. We'd be walking home from dinner and she'd pull me aside into the nearest round one or claw machine related parlor. And we would stay for hours just trying to win the next plushie and the next plushie and the next plush. And not even really because we wanted plushies, we just became addicted to the feeling of winning them. These experiences really make me start to understand the perspectives of those like Daravensky who claim children who engage with loot boxes or similar game-like mechanics may develop a skewed perspective of value and probability, increasing the risk of future gambling behaviors. Well, yeah, even though these games are skill-based, the mechanics are similar enough to be addictive in their own way, and can be gateways to more extreme versions of gambling because of the interaction with our brain's reward system. I mean, we got to the point where we had to buy an entire new suitcase from Don Quixote in order to bring back all of the plushies that we won, which becomes less and less surprising the more that you look into the psychology of this. The NHS long-term plan reports that problematic gambling is fueled by such things as online gambling sites, targeted adverts, things that have contributed to adults becoming more and more addicted to these games. An addiction that can lead to serious mental health difficulties and long-term issues. Just reference some of these clips addressing this very topic.
Researchers have shown that there's a number of changes that happen on a structural and functional basis in different parts of the brain that mediate our pleasure seeking, but also our control and inhibition.
That the uncertainty of the reward may be just as, if not more, desirous than the win itself. Games are designed to take advantage of our psychological tics to help hook us.
I gamble. Kevin Simulator. I spend the whole game gambling. Everywhere I go, I just gamble. Dude, I'm addicted.
So sure, maybe these games and games like them can lead to long-term psychological effects, but it's far too late for me. I was determined to not only go to a pachinko parlor, but leave there making a little bit of money. So we headed from Shibuya to Shinjuku in order to play some pachinko. In our search for great pachinko, we were brought here to Maruhan, a giant building with a Godzilla head at the top of it, looming over everybody, probably warning them not to gamble, but we're brave. We saw Godzilla -1, we know how to deal with him. We're gonna head on in. After some magic tricks, we entered the pachinko parlor and immediately understood where pachinko gets its name from. Pachinko's current name is derived from the Japanese word panchin, the sound of a ball bouncing off of pins, and ko, meaning little. But trust me, there was nothing little about this sound. Entering that parlor was loud. We walked around for a while trying to scope out where we could sit and learn the game without too many experienced players judging us. This proved to be a pretty difficult task because as soon as we showed up, the seats started to fill out. And this was on a Wednesday at noon. So ultimately, we decided to sit next to the guy who had the largest visible score on his machine. And shout out to this guy because he spoke no English, but he had no issue using his offhand that wasn't playing pachinko to shakily type out to me how to play the game. This guy became my sensei and taught me everything I needed to know to win the game of pachinko. We spent some time passing the Translate app back and forth until I was fully able to grasp what I needed to do. And only after about 10 minutes of playing and his lessons really started to sink in, I began to win and win and win again. There was even a small crowd that gathered of like 3 or 4 people behind who were just excited to watch my machine roar out in victory. Juliana wasn't as lucky as me. There was an older man who appeared out of nowhere and just grabbed her hand and turned it onto the machine to try to get her to win, but wasn't quite as lucky. But despite her massive L, I was still up. I was entranced by the fish turning into fruit, into bikini volleyball players somehow, and then back into fish again. That was until my teacher shakily typed out the words, "It's time to stop." I had won enough. Once you're done playing with your balls, you can bring the tokens that you win to a prize counter and get either Hello Kitty stuffed plushies or some little metal tokens. You can bring those to a separate location in exchange for yen. So I cashed out and navigated my way to the prize room. And I was a bit confused, admittedly. I mean, I came here to win money. But all I could really see were sake bottles, bottle openers, various other little prizes that I didn't want scattered about the room. And I don't know how long I was in there, but I would probably say like 5 to 10 minutes before a man in a suit approached me, which was a little bit nerve-wracking because I swear the only thing he said to me was, "I know what you want." And yes, he did. I had no interest in those little snacks or trinkets anymore. And when I arrived, I truly had no idea if I was gonna be able to figure out this process and trade in my prize for yen. I really didn't know what kind of prizes I would need or where I'd have to go after I left the pachinko parlor in order to do this. Because I really didn't want to break the law, but I really wanted to understand how this exploit worked. He brought me to the front desk where I was prompted to pick out an option on the piece of paper. And I'll be honest, I was feeling a little bit nervous about this whole process, so I didn't want to get my phone out and like try to understand what was on that paper, so I just picked the one with the best font. At that point, I was handed a few things: a Red Bull, a little bag of chips, and a glass pane with a piece of gold inside of it. And it was at that moment I realized, just like a Sean Livingston mid-range jumper, I was in. The man in the suit then helped me cash out the remaining money I didn't spend on my card, and he let me know that the little gold piece I received was not meant to keep, but instead to trade in. He then led me down a long escalator out of the casino, and I didn't know where he was taking us, but I assumed I was being led to where I could trade in my little piece of gold for cash. Either that or I was about to be arrested for trying to win cash from the parlor, but we were far too deep to turn back now. I was excited though, as this might be my only opportunity to do what I really came here for. It was kind of strange following him across this busy street in broad daylight, not knowing where my destination was going to end up. And we didn't walk very far, but when we arrived to our destination, I was a bit surprised to see that it was a nightclub. He led us down a staircase to a glass window on the wall where I was prompted to slide my gold pane into. Moments later, a hand reached out for it and handed me back yen in its place. We were then rushed back up to the street with our prize. Is the mic on? Well, we just left. As you'll see here, we were guided out by a really nice guy who saw that I was a little confused in the checkout line and pointed me to the cashier, who gave me a little gold chip, as well as some Red Bull that I picked in a panic because he was pointing at a menu and I didn't see anything I could afford, but I don't know, I chose the Red Bull and whatever these are. We went across the street to a nightclub where I went downstairs and exchanged my little gold token for yen. You know, it was as disorienting as I thought it would be. Maybe a little bit more so. I was more confused while playing Pachinko than I thought I would be. I'm an expert slots player, all-time slots player, Olympics gold medalist.
Stop the cap.
But when it came to actually winning on the Pachinko machine, thankfully I had my teacher next to me who was able to show me how to get my money back. And an old man cleaning my hair out. There's some people behind me who saw that I had some lint in my hair who were picking it out, which maybe it was good luck, I'm not sure.
They said that you were so good.
Yeah, I was really good. They kept saying I was so good, and the graphics were insane. But honestly, 10 out of 10, I could get addicted to that, I'm sure. I mean, I already kind of want to go back. I didn't want to cut it off, but my teacher told me I had to stop. He said, stop while you're ahead, don't keep going, and I listened to him this time. We might have to spin it back. Getting the yen back was as weird as it was described. Going across the street to a nightclub, I don't know, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. So what did I learn from this experience? Well, for one, American vending machines are terrible in comparison to the Japanese ones. For me, it's a little bit more apparent how you can go from playing little games with 100 yen coins for little characters from your favorite anime to wasting thousands of dollars on pachinko machines just so you can feel that same rush. And by no means am I saying this is a direct pipeline, but it is a little bit more clear how people can fall into these kind of things. I mean, it happened to us. As soon as we got back, we realized that there is a round one somewhat near where we lived, and we couldn't resist from driving and playing more crane games. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support, and the reception of my first video has been overwhelming, but like a good overwhelming. So if you like this video, please remember to like, share, and comment, as well as subscribe and ring the bell. And I do feel responsible, as this video is about somewhat of a serious topic, to link the Gambling Addiction Helpline, as well as a few additional charities that are just trying to make this crazy world a little bit better of a place. Stay tuned to see what I do next, and if you missed on my last video, click here to watch it.